Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today we've got a fantastic guest that I'm really eager to introduce you to because he was just a couple years behind me at PHS. He was in my brother's class, and his family and my family go way, way back for generations, and we've always, greatly admired one another and been friends. And I've really admired his business success from afar. As you'll learn, he's basically a serial entrepreneur. He has not one, not two, but many successful businesses. And I'm going to pick his brain about how he's done that and what advice he might give to other young men and women who would like to do that. So with no further ado, I bring up Juwan Allen. Juwan, thank you for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Parker.
I'm really excited. Why don't we kick things off with you telling our viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, again, Juwan Allen. I was born and raised right here in Ponchatoula, Louisiana. Graduated from Ponchatoula High School in '97, class of '97. We like to say one of the smartest classes ever come through the city.
Now, wait a second. I know Bree Larrison's GPA would have dragged y'all down a little bit.
Hey, the top end of the class.
I told my brother at the beginning of the show, but I knew him and Artie Thompson and a lot of your classmates. They weren't all A students like you.
Yeah. Great class, though. If we didn't have the academics, we also had some athletics. So
y'all did. Y'all were bringing it. I mean, y'all were smart and athletic. No doubt about that.
Yes, sir. So upon graduation, I ended up going to Northwestern State University in Natchitoches, Louisiana. There I attended Louisiana Scholars College and then moved over into Northwestern's business school, graduated from there, then went on to work 15 years for a major corporation, spent some time leading those organizations. Last was in Arkansas. Moved back home, started some businesses, and here I am today meeting with Parker Layrisson on Ponchatoula.com Live.
Well, it's an exciting day for us at the show, and we're so glad to have you. We mentioned PHS and some of the other places you went, which I'm eager to ask you about. But let's start with family because as I mentioned, our families go way back. Especially on your mom's side, right? I mean,
yes.
I think of your grandmother, Elnora, and just all the great doties of Ponchatoula. It may not be apparent to folks, because of your name, but if you don't mind, tell us about your family, kind of where you come from and what it was like growing up in your family.
Yeah, so my dad is the late Joe Allen. He passed away about 9 years ago. My mom is Dale Doty Allen. My grandmother, Elnora Doty, and my grandfather, J.C. Doty. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. The Doty name is well known throughout the parish, throughout the state. Those of you may know Larry Doty. My uncle Donald Doty was a state trooper for 27 plus years. My aunt Connie Doty and Larry and Donald Doty, people may not know this, were the first brother and sister state trooper team in the state, and some of the early first African-American state troopers in the state of Louisiana.
Right, I believe, was your Aunt Connie the first female African-American trooper in the state?
Yes, she was. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so at the Doty family, the Doty name, and this is something that I learned in the last few years. I knew that my grandmother and grandfather ran what was called the Corner Cafe, which was right at the end of Southwest, the railroad and Chestnut Street. In fact, it's apartment buildings in that old restaurant, but that was the original Corner Cafe. But I learned that was not the only business they had. Of course, my grandfather was involved with buses, but also they had 5 other establishments throughout the parish.
Wow, that's impressive. And of course, we see that they passed that entrepreneurial, instinct down, not just to you, but your Aunt Connie. Once retired from law enforcement, she followed up her years as a trooper. I think she was chief juvenile deputy with my father when he was sheriff. And then she's had a number of businesses. And I'll tell you, they would do everything from run group homes to, I remember she used to cater the Saints games. I mean, all over the place. And and her children have had great success in that too. So it's been neat to see. Um, it's a big family. It's a successful family. What's it like coming up into that, and kind of where do you find your role when you look back to the good old days? What do you remember as you were trying to find your way through that family? Where did you fit in?
One of the fondest memories of having, I guess, a family that large was that we really didn't have to look outside for a lot of friends, right? You had so many cousins and so many people that when you had a family function, it really filled the place. And in that, you had to really find your way of, like you say, what role do you play? Like, for me, I'm on the smaller side of all of the cousins. So athletics wasn't a big thing. So I kind of had to find my role as, hey, he's a smart guy. He's the one that's
Yeah.
going to do this. And maybe you should be, an accountant, or maybe you should be a lawyer, maybe you should be a doctor,
Yeah.
where some other cousins like Jonathan, not saying they're not smart, but Jonathan,
Yeah.
Jock,
Yeah.
and some of these other guys were more athletically inclined. And so you had to kind of find your role and what people look for you to. And they really looked to me as like I was the dancer of the family, right? Like anytime a party took place, they looked to me to say, Jawan, get on the dance floor. You're going to turn the party out.
Juwan had the moves. That's great. Now I don't share that with you, but I can relate to the non-athletic sibling or less athletic. My brother Bree, your classmates, all district and defensive end. I was the guy taking stats for the high school team. So I can relate to that identity. Well, tell me this. So, you mentioned PHS, and y'all did have such a great class of characters. Brilliant students, great athletes, and just good all-around people that are successes in life in so many ways. Tell us what your experience was like, if you wouldn't mind, at Ponchatoula High School in the 1990s.
It was great. There were a lot of programs and opportunities that were available, really from an academic standpoint, that I was able to participate in by way of relationships and counselors through Ponchatoula High. It was a time where you were either it was just more open. It just seemed more friendly during that time. Like it didn't have people that were, I guess, easily offended, and we all just kind of got along. I just really liked the fact that the coaches, the teachers, everyone was really focused on how do we help get our kids to that next level or where they want to go. It didn't feel like we was a number being pushed through just to take and pass a test so we can meet certain results and skills. It was really about developing the community. And growing up in Ponchatoula, as you made your way to high school, we grew up in a time where the people you started out in kindergarten with, you shared the same class all the way from kindergarten all the way up to graduation, which is kind of unique, I feel, during that time.
Yeah, you might ride the bus with the same person 12 years in a row around here, have the same bus driver the whole time, and really, just kind of get that sense of community going strong.
Yes.
Well, let's talk people at PHS, and I'm not going to put you on the spot to say who was your single favorite teacher, but I'm certain that certain people made an impact on you, whether it might be a extracurricular sponsor, a teacher, a coach. Who do you, when you think back to that era of your life, what faculty members or staff members do you remember fondly, and why?
I think and I know we're talking about PHS, and I really had some great teachers, some great leaders at PHS, but I really would be remiss if I didn't mention really some of our people from a little bit earlier, and that was, in my junior high days, and Miss Josie Lewis was one of my teachers that really set me down a path of getting involved in organizations and doing things really behind the scenes to help me out, that I found out later in life that she was a part of, as well as Miss McGarry. She was also instrumental in that. This is no way, shape, form to discredit or discount any other faculty members or teachers that did have a positive impact on me, but those two individuals, not only during school but away from school, were able to have a positive impact. And I really just think their leadership and their guidance and being able to communicate with those at PHS on my behalf really made a difference for me.
Well, I'm glad that you brought it back down to junior high, because I'm the husband of the Ponchatoula Junior High counselor, and my wife, I know, loves to hear the love for the Pirates. It's not all about the green wave in this town. The Pirates deserve some recognition too. So thank you for doing that. Now, you left PHS and went off to Northwestern for college, right? Where
That's
I think
correct.
most people
Northwestern
stay a
State,
little
yes.
closer. Southeastern probably gets the most students out of this town, followed by LSU, Southern, the universities that are closer. What brought you up there to Natchitoches to go to Northwestern?
One, Northwestern State University had a phenomenal recruiting department. And, you know, again, not being an athlete, they did come down and still recruit. I was able to go up, visit the campus, spent some time there. And I was really attracted to what is called the Louisiana Scholars College. It's kind of like, you know, a liberal arts Harvard type college of the South, right? It's a hidden gem right here in our state. And they really recruited me for that program. And so that really kind of drew me to that area. And then of course, when I got to the campus and saw how beautiful it was, you know, the lake on the campus, Natchitoches is another small town with a lot of history like Ponchatoula. It just really drew me in to making that my choice. I was able to be far enough away from home to be away, but close enough to get back in an emergency.
You know, I was blessed to spend all 4 summers of college for about a week or 2 working as a camp counselor in Natchitoches at the university. And you're right, man. It's a beautiful little town. And for anybody that's never done Christmas in Natchitoches, you got to go check out the lights. That's their version of the Strawberry Festival in terms of a destination. But Natchitoches all year round, it's just a great place. You mentioned, you know, the lakes there, the river runs through it. It's beautiful. They film Steel Magnolias there. I mean, you know, it's a kind of a hidden gem, as you mentioned, here in Louisiana. And you're right. It's what is it, 3-4 hours away? I don't know.
About between 3 and 4 hours, depending on the speed limit. You know, now I-49 actually has.
You know, when you drive with the state trooper in the family, you can probably make better time than I can.
It's 75 miles an hour now on 49. So
wow,
you can make it in about 4. Yeah.
Well, I remember, I'm sure you remember Mr. Vernon Haney. He was a Ponchatoula legend around here and a great man. He worked at the sheriff's office. And I remember sometimes he would drive me up there. My dad would drive me back. You know, they would take turns. And it was just great times. So, folks, we're here with Juwan Allen. We're talking about the good old days at PHS. And I want to share with you, we got some comments here. Derek Hamilton. Hey, Derek, thank you for tuning in. Excuse me. I have a little cough here. I'm sorry about that, but he says, well said. And Derek, forgive me. I know you said that a while back. I can't remember which of Juwan's comments that you were commenting on there, but I didn't give this up quick enough, and I apologize. And my pal James Gibbs Jr., man, you talk about talent. One of the most talented artists around. He dropped a new single within the last week. Check it out. It's amazing. But he says great information and interview. James, thank you for tuning in. To anyone who is watching us live, as you can see, we have the ability to put your comment up in real time. So if you have a question for Juwan, or if you just want to say something nice, as Derek and James have, please chime in. Marcus Kennedy, boy, talk about quick typist, man. He's quick on the draw. But he says to ask you how you read all those books. Okay, Juwan, I know you're in my law office, and so I'm going to give you a pass. I bet you have not read those books. And I'm not going to answer whether I've read these books here. We'll just take the fifth on that, right?
That's what look, that's one of my best friends, man. College, man. We go back over 20-something years. Wow. They're on there giving me the business. So, but this is a real background. This is real. This is not a green screen, guys.
Oh, that's funny. Well, thank y'all for tuning in. It's so fun catching up with you, Juwan. So, you know, we mentioned going off to school. Were you the first person in your family that went that far away, you know, for school? And what was that like? You know, as you mentioned, you come from this big family, a tight-knit family. As we talked about off the air, every time, you know, I see your cousins, they're talking about you, updating me, you know, and vice versa. It's a great big family, but you're closely close knit. I'm not aware as wide as the reach of the Doty and Allen families are. I don't know of any in Natchitoches. What was it like being, because like, although you weren't in a different state or across the country, 3 hours away in 1997 and 98, that's quite a trek. There was no FaceTime yet. What was it like being away from your mama and all your other family members at that point in your life?
First getting to college, right? You're really excited. You're trying to figure out, who you are as a person. You're trying to figure out your classes. You're meeting new friends. A lot of people go to college and create a whole new identity of who they are. For me, because of the relationships that were built through the years in high school and afforded the opportunities to go to upward bound camps, when here in Ponchatoula, when we were in 3rd and 4th grade, we had a chance to go to France. And all throughout my elementary school, I was able to go to these different camps throughout that time. So going off to college wasn't that big of an adjustment, being away. It was more so when things didn't go right. You couldn't immediately turn to the family network. You had to create a new family away from home and learn to trust and build relationships with people like some of the guys that chimed in. They became your new family. Yeah. They became the people you turn to.
Because you needed new friends too. So without a Marcus Kennedy of the world and other friends, you'd be more alone up there. John Conde, I hope I'm saying your last name right here, John. He says, thank you for your dedication and your selfless service to the community. And he certainly hit the nail on the head there. You are well known for your dedication to the community and community service. And John, I appreciate you noticing that. Another comment coming in here from a mutual friend of ours who's been on the show like you, Juwan, and that's Mark Herbois. You guys would have been in school together. He says he's always had a ton of respect for you and the drive that you've had. He's known you a long time. You've always had drive. And you're the man who never missed a day. Is that true? Perfect attendance from K through 12.
Well, it might have seemed like that. I may have won the award once or twice. I don't know about never missed a day, but pretty close to it. Pretty close to it.
Hey, Verb, it sounds to me like Juwan missed a day but never got caught. Maybe found his way onto that role, even though he made senior skip day. Who knows? I'm not going to out him now on that.
At one point, Mark and I actually worked for the same organization.
Was that Enterprise Rent-A-Car?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, I was just about to ask you about your career because, we're talking about Northwestern State University, and I know you studied business there and accounting, but you did long before you became a small town, hometown entrepreneur. You spent, I believe, 13 years in the big corporate Fortune 500 world, right?
Yes,
why don't
that's
we
correct.
use that as a transition so that you could share with us how that came to be?
So I'll give you guys kind of funny story about it. So I was on student government's SGA council, the SGA president. He and I actually didn't see eye to eye. He was the president, I was one of the council members, and we just didn't get along. But he was interning at Enterprise Rent-A-Car during his time as the SGA president. When his internship was coming to an end, they asked him to recommend someone that they thought would be a good fit to fill that program. And so he reached out to me. It was never my intention to have a career with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, but I took that internship, again, struggling college student, trying to get some extra money. Took that position on as an intern, which was actually more of just a glorified car prep. I washed cars in the heat in the summer, certain time, right?
That'll build your character.
Right. So that went on for, about 2 years until I graduated. I graduated in December of 2001, which was just after 9/11. So the job market was pretty much shot. I'm like, listen, I already have a job with this company. I know how to wash cars. I can kind of learn the rest. And during that time, I worked my way through the management training program, was introduced to someone that's still a mentor today, over 20 years later. His name is Rob Land. And he pretty much said, hey, listen, young man, I'm not sure what direction you want to head in life. I've been with the company for quite some time now. If you trust me and give me 3 years of your time, commitment, dedication, I guarantee you I can get you to the next level. In literally 3 years from the date that we had that conversation, I was promoted into the executive ranks and was able to impact so many others the same way that my mentor, Rob Land, did during that time. Enterprise, people see from maybe the funny commercials, We may be mentioned in different movies,
Yeah.
but I will tell you, Enterprise is a hidden gem and a great opportunity to get your feet wet, especially if you have dreams or desires of becoming an entrepreneur, because it teaches you how to run a business step by step by step.
Well, I think its training program is renowned. Even folks like me that have never worked in the corporate world like that, hear about it and learn about it. It's kind of like Ritz-Carlton Hotel or something where people know you go there to get trained in ways that can serve you all throughout life. And you mentioned passing that down to the next generation once you hit the executive level. Got a good example of it right here. Derek Hamilton back. He says, thank you for giving him the chance at his first corporate job. And that led him into owning his own business. So how cool is that? I mean, exactly what you just said happened. There's living proof, folks. You don't have to take Juwan's word for it. Derek is living proof of that legacy being passed down.
And as we hop in and talk about some other things, you're going to see how that comes full circle.
That's exciting. Well, while we're talking about helping folks, I do want to circle back to someone we mentioned earlier. He said one of our first nice comments. I mentioned James Gibbs' song, I'm Ready, dropped here within the last week or so. If our producers are listening, please try to find that and put a link to that into the James, like you, Juwan, has been on the show, and he's a great local talent. And it's not every day that one of our Ponchatoula Live alumni has a potential hit in the making, finding its way to the Apple Music Store, Spotify, wherever folks get those things. So, folks, if you could, to the producers, please put that in the comments. I would greatly appreciate it. And speaking of the comments, you got more coming in from people that we know and love. Kevin and Karen Rayford say that you're a great guy from the class of '97. I know Kevin was your classmate.
Yeah.
And he thanks you for all your service to the community and is glad to be your friend. What's the old saying? It takes one to know one. Nobody's done more for our community than Kevin. He's our newly elected assessor, and man, he earned that job the old-fashioned way with hard work and grit and working his way up through the ranks. And I could not be more happy for my old buddy that he's doing so well. Miss Jackie Thomas, boy, man, I just love her. Speaking of gold families that go way back, she says she loves this. This is what and congratulations, James, to you so I want to thank you, Miss Jackie, for tuning in.
That's family, by the way.
Oh, okay. How so? Okay.
Yeah. On my mama's side, somewhere down the line. Jackie, forgive me. You know we can. I don't have the family tree book out, but yeah, that's family.
My family's so small. My dad's side, he had one brother and two first cousins, and that was it. So it's like super small.
Oh no!
And then you got families like yours where it's so big. It's like I don't know what part of the tree that's connected there, but I know they're on the tree. That's really cool. And she says much love, family. Marcus Kennedy says the old green E. Is that Enterprise? The old green E?
Okay. Full disclosure. That's Northwestern. That's fraternity brother. And that's Old Greenie. So again, when we link up, if I have it, you have it. It's all one. Like we pull each other along. So yeah. But start out Northwestern, fraternity brothers, and ended up in the same careers and profession. Actually, if you don't mind me saying, when I talked about mentoring and passed it on, he was someone that came to Enterprise after I was there, and I was in a position, opportunity to really work and help him throughout his career, and he was ultimately promoted to an executive position as well during his time there.
That's exciting. And it speaks so well, not just the two of you individually in the company, but to your university. Y'all are producing leaders up there, and that's impressive. So if folks are watching and wondering where to send your kids, give Northwestern a shot. It's not just a pretty little town. It's one heck of a school there. Pete Clark, speaking of great entrepreneurs who come from the corporate world, my buddy from high school, just like Juwan, you were a couple years behind me. Pete was a couple years ahead of me. Y'all probably weren't able to be in school at the same time the way we were, but another fine leader and Ponchatoula Live alumnus, right? I enjoyed his interview a ton. We do have a song here for you, Gibbs. So Danny Lynn, thank you for putting that in there. She's got it both on YouTube and on Apple Music. So Sorry to hijack your interview, Juwan.
No,
You know what?
no
If you've got
hijack,
something
man.
new dropping in 3 months when somebody else is on here, I promise I'll give you the same courtesy, because we have a small little community here. We need to help one another and support one another.
Yeah,
So,
James and I have done business together recently,
oh,
so
really?
I'm excited. I'm
That's
excited
great.
for him and his family and some of the decisions they're making. So
Yeah.
there's no time in the end. There's plenty for everybody.
And he's got a
Abundance.
giver's heart. You know, if you go,
Yeah.
I was today dropping off a T-shirt to my buddy Marshall Graves. He and I are both under the weather, and you know, Gibbs is his family. He married his cousin Aisha, who was my classmate and buddy. And you know, I'm thinking about, you know, every time Marshall, they do their ministry on Monday nights at the community center, and you're going to see James and Aisha up there every time giving, just in every way possible, from, you know, passing out pizza to kids, to singing, to preaching, to doing whatever's needed. They're really neat. And Pete, I like to see you giving this PHS comment there. Thanks for
Yeah.
giving our
So
alma mater.
Pete and my cousin used to hang out. I remember them from don't get mad at me, Pete, but from Taco Bell days. We used to work at Taco Bell there in Hammond.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Marshall and I, you know, go way back. We're virtually best friends from Layton High School and grew up same neighborhood, pretty much next
Yeah.
door.
So
A great story
you
about
probably
his
did Marshall
dad.
when you had his little briefcase with the baseball cards.
Yes,
Yeah.
great story about Marshall's dad, man. I was getting ready for an event, Mr. Bruce, and you know, my dad has always been a part of my life, but my dad was a workaholic. He spent a lot of time at work, and there was an opportunity for me to attend an event, and there was no one else around to tie a tie. You know, the old how do you tie a tie? Bruce Gray, Mr. Bruce, stepped up, running across the field to their home at the end of 3rd Street over there, and you know, he tied that tie for me, and I never forgot that. That's a lasting impact.
Pastor Grace is a great man, and that's one nice thing about having a preacher in the family or in the neighborhood, right? They know how to tie ties.
Yes.
They're living in suits more than us lawyers, even, really, truthfully. So many great comments coming in here. More family coming in here, thanking you for being a great inspiration and empowering others. Kelly West, on top of that, says, super proud of you. You're one of the people that he looked up to coming out of the class of 2000. John is back to say that you amazed him on how you balanced the academic rigor in college. You maintained employment. So tell us about taking care of the elderly, specifically Mama Cortez.
I stayed in. Wow, he's gonna make me divulge all the secrets. So, you know, I stayed in a development that was typically reserved for the elderly, and so being there, you were able to instantly have just an impact on on that person's assisting them with things that they need. So I'll leave it at that. John has some jokes too. Now you.
He's a funny one, huh? That's neat, man.
Yeah,
So good to have all these great people coming back. And look, speaking of the devil, my pal Aisha Gibbs says she loves us both. Outstanding. I love the way you put the young men on that. You know,
I got some gray. It's not much.
Yeah, look at this, man. I look like your grandpa, man. And our dear friend Felicia Elsie. Hey, Felicia, another.
Hey, Felicia.
And she says, good evening to you as well. So let's shift, if you don't mind, to business. You know, we've talked about, you know, braving, you know, going away to college and making your mark in the corporate world. And clearly you made an impact. People are on here singing your praises about that. But eventually you know, to borrow a phrase from LeBron James, you just decided to take your talents to Ponchatoula, right? You came back home, and now you're doing it here in the community. You've got your notary auto title business. You've got your video game business. You've got all these things going. Would you mind, and you can take this in any order you want, one at a time, chronologically, but tell us about the different businesses you've started and what you're doing, you know, to do good in the community, whether it's through creating jobs or services for people. Tell us about your businesses.
Great question. I'll start with, you know, I have nothing but positive glowing praise about Enterprise Rent-A-Car. But unfortunately, it came to a point to where we had to make a decision, and I decided to part ways with the company. I left with a wealth of knowledge, a little bit of cash in my pocket, and I was forced to figure out, what's going to be my next move. At that time, I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas, and so I said, you know what? I've been away from home for 15, 16, 17 years. Let me take this knowledge, this information, and a little bit of coin that I do have, come back home and try to figure something out. It didn't quite go as planned.
It never does. I can relate to that.
Yeah, I went through that little bit of coin quickly. And so I found myself getting back in the workforce, and I took a job as a district manager in payday loan business, learned a little bit about that. Then ended up taking a job at Walmart Distribution Center of all places, working in the DC, the warehouse, area manager.
Wow. Did you ever stumble across my old classmate Demetrius Carter? He would have been there back then too.
Yes, I did.
From my pal D, who's probably the hardest working friend I got. That's real work, man.
Yes,
that was probably tougher than washing cars in the summer.
Yeah, Demetrius actually was a big help when I moved into that role in DC, because me coming from the outside, coming from a totally different industry, not knowing anything about logistics from a warehouse standpoint, he was a huge asset there, and he helped me through that. And after spending some time there for I don't know if I want to spend 24, 16, 18 hours a day in the building, and I moved into the insurance space where I got my insurance license, property casualty, life, health, accident, and my Series 6. So I got all those licenses and decided to, hey, you know what? In 2009, while I was with Enterprise, I took the notary exam. Didn't go as planned either. But in 2014, had better results, ended up getting my notary commission. And so along the way, I'm on this dual path of, working honest 9 to 5, working a job, working a career to provide for my family. Had my notary commission, really wasn't doing anything with it. And this is how it comes full circle. One of the gentlemen that I hired at Enterprise when I was in Little Rock, he had also left the company, and he called me with, hey, Jay, I have this crazy business that I've started. It's making a lot of money. You got to see this. And I was like, man, that's your thing. What are you talking about? He's like, man, I have a game truck. I'm like, what? A game truck? What is that? He was like, you got to check it out, Jay, man. You got to come see it. And I'm like, you know what? You're a little bit younger than me. That might be your thing. He's like, no, Jay, you got to come see it. So took the family at that time up there, and we spent the weekend going to the events, checking it out. And I said, okay, that's all great, fine and dandy. Show me the numbers. Show me the money. Let me see what really happens.
That's that business and accounting education coming back around, right? You weren't going to settle for sizzle. You wanted to see the numbers.
Right. Now, at that time, when I said show me the money, I'm thinking he's going, some spreadsheets, so on and so forth. He opens up the safe, right? Like literally shows me the money. And I saw those stacks. I'm like, yeah, that might be something to this. So that Monday, when I got back here to Louisiana, I was making a phone call and ordering my game truck. And so in April of 2017, Game Changers mobile video game theater was established. And with that, it kind of ran parallel to me still figuring out what it is I want to do with my notary commission, figuring out what I want to do with my 9 to 5. And the game truck really just kept calling me, right? Hey, you know what? This is where the money's at. I'm making it happen.
I'll believe it. I witnessed one for the first time this year. I have 2 little boys. They're going to be turning, one will be 6 tomorrow, and the other one will be 8 next week. And so we've been to a lot of birthday parties in the last 8 years. Okay. And this last year, I went to the first one with a game truck. And I'm going to tell you, it's the first time I've ever seen the kids didn't touch the candy. The kids didn't touch the Cane's chicken fingers, all the stuff that's a usual big hit. They were glued to that truck from the moment the party started until the moment the truck went away. And it was captivating. And so I can see you've got a product there that's special that people really want. So yeah, that makes sense that it was in demand. So you get the notary license. So this thing, I mean, I would imagine you're just booking it regularly. The game truck's in demand, but you're looking for something to do with your 9 to 5, and you got your notary license. How did that lead into the auto and the title business you have now? Was that something that clicked right away, or did it take a while to put that together?
No, so great question. Again, having got my notary commission, really wasn't doing anything with it. Game truck was going well, but it was more of a weekend kind of driven business. And so in 2020, actually, during the pandemic, when things kind of got crazy for everyone, I happened to stop in to Whittington's notary service, Miss Janine Whittington, right? As everyone knows, a staple in the community,
Right.
been in business 20 plus years, and was really kind of down at that point because it's COVID, right? You know, this was her safe haven. This was her place she would go every day to really embrace the things that her and her husband, Mr. Lloyd, had in place. And she was ready to just kind of like walk away. She was just done. And I said, no, you have a wealth of knowledge. I want to learn from you, right? Allow me an opportunity to work in this office. I'll pay your rent. It was a place for me to have now a base of operations, a place to get up and go to on a daily basis during the pandemic, so I wouldn't be locked in the home on a Zoom call or whatever. And during that
And a
time,
great location right there on Main Street, Highway 22, the heart of Ponchatoula.
right, perfect location. Business was still kind of slow, but during that time, interest rates had bottomed out. And so as a notary, one of the things that you can get involved in is what is called a loan signing agent, a mobile loan signing agent. So there's several platforms that you can sign up for, and they pretty much kind of like a Uber or a DoorDash approach. They send out, hey, we have a loan closing this date and time. This is how much we're offering. You can negotiate, what have you, accept it, and then you're off to the races, right? And so during that time, I was able to pick up a lot of business doing that. But spending time with Miss Janine, with Miss Whittington, she always talked about how it was the dream of her and Lloyd to have a auto title public tax agency here in Ponchatoula for the local community. We all know the big boys that are in Hammond and other places, but at that time, Ponchatoula really wasn't on the map for having an auto title place where you can come in and get your license plate. She and I discussed really the pros and cons of doing that, what it would really mean to her, the impact on the business and the investment it would take. And so in 2021, we began, application research, looking to raise some capital to make that investment. And in August of 2022, we went live with Allen Auto Title and Notary. And that's kind of how we came to be in existence there.
Well, that's exciting. Well, our producer, Danny Lynn, has put a link here in the notes, as well as your email address, your location, all of that. And I would encourage folks to check that out, because you're right. We have not long had a business like that in town. You used to have to drive to Hammond or even farther away to do that kind of stuff. So it's exciting to be able to do it mere minutes away from where we live. Miss Jackie Thomas chimes in that Mrs. Whittington really is an awesome lady. And she's right. You're right. That couple, that family, that business has been a cornerstone of Ponchatoula forever. I mean, some of us all more gray in the beard than you, Juwan, folks, remember DNR back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But most folks at this point, 30 years later, think of that as the Whittington location. Sandy Price said, another great alumnus of the show, says that this is awesome. Hey, Sandy, how are you doing?
Hey.
Sandy, I know you've got I mentioned birthday coming up tomorrow. You've got to say, so Sandy's stepson, Parker, great name, but much better looking, smarter than me, is gonna have a birthday tomorrow, the same day as my kindergarten kid, and they are 8th grade and kindergarten buddies at St. Joe's. So
nice.
Sandy remembers DNR. That's
yes,
cool.
DNR. You know what that stands for, by the way?
No, please tell me. What does that?
I think it's Deborah and Robin. It was two sisters. I do know the story.
Okay.
So the names might be off, but it was
Yeah.
two sisters.
So it
That's
was
the
two
DNR.
sisters. That was two. I never knew. I would have thought it would have been like Derry and something.
Yeah, yeah.
We were talking up Demetrius Carter earlier, and here's Sharon Carter, his wife, bragging on your excellent service. So Sharon, thank you. We were talking up your husband. I should have been talking you up. Sharon was the realtor that helped my wife and I buy this beautiful home we live in. She's with Branch Real Estate right there on Main Street, not too far from your business. So we'll just make this the Circle the Wagon business episode and keep that going.
Yes, yes. Sharon has done business with me for my financial services side. I've used Demetrius, Adrian's maintenance to clear some land I have here in Ponchatoula when I put some apartments here in town. So, like, we truly try to keep that Ponchatoula high, local family connection going and supporting each other's businesses. I don't know if everyone knows this. It's not. I guess it's a little bit more somber news, but Miss Whittington did pass away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
In October of this past year. So one of the things that we discussed prior to that happening was she did not ever want to sell the business to anyone that was not committed to keeping it in the community, keeping the notary service available. But we definitely miss her. She was a mentor, a great friend, and like a grandmother to me. She accepted me as part of her family, and I will be forever grateful for everything that she's taught me and the opportunity that she gave me to move forward and carry on and open Allen Auto Title Notary.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I had not heard that. You know, we live these busy lives, and you don't always get updated with that. But that's neat that you shared that. And before I take Sharon's quote down, I'll say this: I think she and Demetrius are the hardest working couple I know. They average about 3 jobs apiece at all times, and they're both super parents and all that too. And that's something. Circling back to what we started this interview with, family. They come from great families. It's no accident. You know, I knew her grandmother, my grandmother were very close. And it's just always been a great, morally centered, Christian, hardworking family and continues to be so. Got some other comments that have come in a while back, and forgive me for taking a while to get to them, but Juwan's just so popular there wouldn't be much interview if I did every comment in real time. But Mignon Barnes, Miss Barnes chimes in to say that you are nothing but professional and very knowledgeable of your craft. So, thank you for sharing that. But she's not alone. Old classmate of yours, I think, Kev Brown, another great guy who's been on the show. He's doing good work up in Mississippi now.
Yes,
just keep up the great work, and he's great. It's great to see it.
I've done some work up there in Mississippi with Kevin. I've actually taken the game truck up there to some of the festivals that he's hosted. And Kevin and I go back, man. Track team, you should catch rides home together. So basketball,
super guy. And he's got a great story. And as I mentioned, folks, like Kevin, like Sandy, you know, like Sharon, all these folks that have been on the show before, James Gibbs. If you want to see their interviews, folks, they're all stored. If you just look at the videos portion of our Facebook page, we have 100+ interviews. This is a great one. But as you're meeting new people, if you miss those old interviews, check them out. Elliot Hill joins in. This says it's great to hear more about your journey, and he's so proud of you and your family. So that's neat. You know, I promised I can get you out of here in a reasonable amount of time, and I've probably taken longer than we expected. But before we do, you know, Juwan, you have been, you know, incredibly successful in life on many fronts, scholastically, corporate, entrepreneur, professionally as a community servant, etc. I want to ask you for advice. One of the things I love about this show is the opportunity to get successful people like yourself and ask you advice that maybe finds its way to a young person who would love to be like you one day. And Lord knows it would be a lot better to get some good advice and start on that path earlier than maybe have to figure it out along the way at a later age. So, you know, if I were to ask you, what advice would you give somebody young who would like to be a success in business, maybe own their own business, but also in life like you have? What would you say to them?
I would say learn to be disciplined, appreciate and welcome delayed gratification, right? Everyone wants to rush to be famous or rush to be first or rush to be a millionaire, but take the right steps along the way. I will also add, trust your gut and don't ignore the red flags. And it's okay to use a 9 to 5 to build your business. It's okay. You don't have to start from scratch. Don't reinvent the wheel. You can put rims on it and make it bling. You don't have to reinvent the process. And most importantly, have a relationship with God Almighty.
Amen.
Seek out mentors, right? And if people are reaching out to help, allow them to help.
Yeah. Well, on that topic, who have been mentors to you? When you look back on your business journey, on your life journey, who springs to mind as mentors that you may want to thank or talk about?
I've kind of mentioned some earlier when we talk about, Miss Lewis, Miss McGarry. Obviously, my mom and dad. That kind of comes natural.
Yeah.
But I have to throw out there, a Robert Land from my days at Enterprise. I'll also have to mention he recently passed away, the late Bishop Cage. I would have to mention Elliot that chimed in there. I'll have to mention the late Reverend Montgomery. I grew up at St. Matthew's AME Church, and he was someone I was able to really dive into the Word and study with. Those are some people that stand out, and many more. I would say there was a Mark Verbois from one of my professions. It's just so many people along the way, and I would say too, look for mentors at every different stage, of your life. Pastor Simon from Alexandria during my time there, Pastor Nate Young in Covington. Man, it's just so many. I don't want to leave anyone out, but I will say those are some names that really have some huge impact on me. And if anyone I forgot that's watching it, judge it to my head, not to my heart. But those names are definitely some of the ones that really stood out along the way.
Well, and look, it's impossible to remember everybody, and I know I put you on the spot, but thank you for your candor and for naming names, because it's important for people to see the essential element of mentors in your life, no matter what you do. And I happen to notice you found a heck of a lot more in a church pew than you did anywhere people are misbehaving. And I don't think that's a coincidence, folks. So for those of you, paying attention, we have a link here up for your Game Changers mobile game theater, as we've done with your other businesses. But before I end the interview with a final question, I want to ask you what's next. I mean, clearly you are a guy who's always kind of peeking around the corner, and you have a knack for businesses that can make money and provide essential services to our community. So, and I'm not asking you to divulge any trade secrets, but when you think about what your future holds, you're still a very young man. What do you think, you'll be up to in the years ahead?
I really look forward to, growing the auto title business to be able to create more jobs in the community. The game truck business, I'm actually looking for a driver that has experience with towing the vehicle to expand that business. And then ultimately, some type of way into public service to have a greater impact.
Yeah.
Who knows, right?
I'm looking forward to that day. If you find your way onto a ballot, I'd love to vote for you. Whatever. As long as you're not running against your classmate for chief of police, you can count on me.
No, I'll leave the law enforcement to the athletic guys.
To the Doties, the aunts and uncles on the Doty side, right?
Yeah.
Well, Dewan, I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with me. I know it's very valuable and limited. before we go, is there anything else at all on your mind, on your heart, just anything at all that you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners?
I'd just like to share that we all are given the same amount of time in a day. You don't have to come from money. You don't have to have all these great things. Just be open to learn, to grow, and understand that, you know, the world is yours. Don't be afraid. Take the leap.
Very well said. Well, there you have it, folks. I hyped him up big at the outset of the show, and he delivered. Jawan Allen's one of the great men of Ponchatoula, and we're very lucky to have him in our community, and we're blessed that he shared his time with us today. So, Jawan, thank you for making time. To my many viewers, look, comments are still coming in. Miss Johnson, thank you. Miss Doty, thank you.
Yeah, that's my sister. Shout out to my daughters. I have beautiful daughters.
Oh,
I
yeah,
have
please, go ahead.
Beautiful family. Daddy loves you. To my fur baby, Nas, 180-pound, 50-pound cane Carso. So, yeah.
That's neat. Well, they are lucky to have you in their life, and you clearly get joy from them. I'd say the smile on your face says it all. So, folks, thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll be back another week. We'll take next week off for Mardi Gras, but we'll be back after that. And to Jawan and his family, we thank him a lot. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.